This is Paul. Yes. You know, anytime that you consider building something new, right? This very smooth surface, yeah, made of high density recycled garbage, right? That produces electricity to manufacture it, yeah. And that high tensile strength wire that's about an inch in diameter that uses junk cards to manufacture it, yeah. I would say that for most of all the needs of mass transit, yeah, it does work. Now, those in San Francisco are saying, well, we have a big problem going uphill. Yeah. And we gotta have to have something that, or if you live in Seattle, we have a big problem going downhill and at 30 feet above the ground where there's nothing there. Yes. You seem to think, I think it works. Yeah. And I'm going to want to manufacture it. Yes. Now, as a citizen, I have a duty and responsibility, to protect the health, safety, and property of all the citizens. And this health, safety, and property of all the citizens of this nation and every nation of the world, yes, I think it's a very healthy mode of transportation that uses a product that we all pay to get rid of. Now, you could pay me to take your garbage, yes. And you could pay me to build this at approximately 20% of what you're paying from the taxpayers right now. And I think it would decrease the cost of increasing mass transit. It decreases the time by about 80%. Now, let's say that you sent a crew out, yes, and they unbolt the traffic lights, yes, and they bolt on a type of structure, yes, where it's an overhead mass transit system. You know, this whole digging of the ground, my thought is, why don't we fill it in? Are there any other subways or electric overhead trains on the East Coast? Yes. Where the thought of not going underneath the city could benefit the city because of the amount of money. Now, we could use that old subway system. Yeah. We can fill it full of shit because the thought of drilling is very expensive for the needs of transporting citizens. Now, I know that a lot of you are commuters, yes, and we seem to have this engineering where we have to spend X number of billions of dollars on freeways and overpasses and all this type of stuff. But when it's just a simple hovering type of mass transport system, you could almost put it anywhere. You could put it over a pre-existing freeway system. Now I know what would happen if it rains. Well, a lot of the water would end up on the upper level, that would be squeegeed, yes, so as to put it in the municipal water supply. Unlike our pre-existing drainage system of roadways, yes, I think it's a much more efficient way to get the water from the rain. Yeah. Now, of all the freeway systems where there's a lot of congestion, yes, why don't you think about the health of removing garbage and junk cars? Because you'll pay me to take them away. I'll buy up the junkyards. I'll turn the land into townhouses. Now, this safety, I'm concerned about it. Okay. We do not want any hovering vehicles hovering off the roadway. Yeah. And for those in earthquake problems, yes. Now, this property of the citizens, yes, yes, yes. Let's see, you're going to buy X number of hundreds of miles for the sound transit system in the Seattle area. And you're going to use eminent domain. And all of the property of all of those citizens you're going to buy up and you're going to put a sound transit system that you're going to manufacture out of concrete, yes, rebar, poo, tracks, yes, electric motors, right, and have some very heavy, Now, what if we didn't need to use eminent domain? What if no citizen had to give up their property for the good of society? Well, why don't you get me the eminent domain? Not just the taxation, it's that every time you decide right now, you decide to go in and buy whole neighborhoods of houses, yes, completely demolish them, yes, and then you You restructure the land that the Sound Transit's going to be on. Yes, it does. And then you go in there with concrete crews and you put in the mass transit. Yes. And then you put in the track that the train is going to go on, and then you use some sort of electric or combustion motor. Now, for a lot of citizens that dislike this idea of giving up their personal property for the good of society, yes, when they can see there's a street in front of their house, yeah, they can. Now, they'd be upset, okay? We can either buy up your personal residences at whatever we want to pay you, yes, or we can remove that light pole or maybe even a telephone pole, depending upon the telecommunications. Well, I was looking at telephone poles last night, in fact, maybe even this morning. Yes, they seem to be everywhere. Ooh. You know, a telephone pole is approximately 30 feet in the air. Yes. And above it, there is not a lot. Yes. And there are not a lot of power lines above telephone poles. No, there's not. I think it would be better if citizens did not have to sell their personal residences, yes, for whatever governments want to pay for them, yes, to be able to put in mass transit systems over pre-existing roads. No. Now it's just me. Okay. You're there as the citizen. You're saying, no, buy my property, tear down the house, put in all this, and then you're going to get with the market right now. Now, a lot of people, okay, they do not want to have the eminent domain of a government's need for mass transit. Now, a lot of governments have used as an excuse to buy up your personal property against your will. Yes, the idea of eminent domain. Domain. If I looked at the actual purchases of each city of the United States of America, where the city government said, well, $28 billion, we're going to have to buy up all that land. Yes, that happens to be the personal property of a citizen, because most every piece of property in this nation, and quite possibly other nations, is actually owned by the individuals that you have to buy it from. Poop. Now, it could be make it possible for people to live together peacefully. For every citizen that complains about having one of these, you need to consider, how would you like the litigation of taking your property from you, making you move so that they can put it.